Good evening. Today is Monday, March the 2nd, 2026. It's 7 p.m. I'd like to call the regular Board of Selectmen meeting to order.
Troy Lemire.
Kevin Bishop.
Paul Marino.
Paul Harrington.
Todd Archelashi.
Glenn Albanesius.
William Hester.
Cheryl Heffernan McGlynn.
William Palzo.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, agenda review. Does anyone have anything? Item 4, approval of the minutes of our regular meeting on February 17th.
So one correction under item 10, and this would be under the, to form the Charter Revision Commission, there was actually an E, so we had A, B, C, D, and E was, and I don't have the exact wording, but it would be any other item that the commission deems important. And that would be letter E under item 10A.
I'll second with the correction.
There's actually one more. It's highlighted in there for the Mayor Archelaski requested a 5-minute caucus. Selectman Marino made the motion, but he can't make the second. I think it was Selectman Lemire that actually made that second motion.
I did.
I'll look it up.
Any other corrections or additions? Seeing none, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Item 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Who wishes to speak? Anyone? Item 6, town manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor, and good evening, Board, and welcome. A few items, but you'll see towards the end of it what we've been doing over the last few weeks. First, I'd like to begin by extending a severe thank you to our Public Works Department for another outstanding storm cleanup effort following the most recent storm. Wish I didn't have to keep thanking them, but they do tremendous work, and hopefully we're through all of the snow. Their preparation, long hours, professionalism ensured the roads were cleared quickly and safely for the residents. I also have to recognize the critical support provided by the Emergency Management Director, Police Department, and Fire Department. Their coordination and assistance played a significant role in ensuring operations ran smoothly and safely throughout the storm event. Winchester is well served by its dedicated professionals. Moving on, I wanted to report to the board that at our last meeting, I let the board know that our speed cameras were kicked back after cursory review. We've since gone back and we've enhanced some of the items that they were looking for. Happy to report last Friday, we were given the green light that the 60-day clock for the speed cameras has officially started. So the DOT will let us know 60 days from this past Friday, a week from Friday, so it wasn't this past Friday, but it was a week ago Friday, that the speed cameras has passed the cursory review section, and we're off to the 60-day window. So as we hear more, I'll obviously let the board know. Moving on, Eversource was in our office this morning. They are reporting that the next phase of their gas main replacement will begin sometime late spring to early summer. This section will begin at High Street and end a little bit towards past the Dunkin' Donuts. As the start date gets a little bit more locked in, we'll plan on doing an informational meeting like we did in the past, and probably do it on a Monday night prior to a Board of Selectmen meeting so people can, stay around for both. But this will be a little less impactful because there isn't any islands up there. But I will point out that the infrastructure work that they did last summer gave us the ability to purchase 3 additional police cruisers. So it'll be the same. They'll have to hire police officers. I did ask when they'd be looking at potentially paving the section that they ripped up. DOT has not given them the green light as of yet to pave it. The debate right now is, do we wait until they finish the new section and then pave it all, or not? Obviously not our road. I throw it out to the board of what their opinion is, and I can definitely, voice your opinions with the DOT and with Eversource. But nothing more, I honestly, I don't have an idea of which way the DOT is leaning right now. If they're gonna
Wait till
pave
it's
it,
done,
wait till it's
right.
done. So more on that, that just got hit today. Really quick, SS4 consultant selection, that's the Safe Streets for All. The town has selected Ty and Bond to lead the development of Winchester Safe Streets for All. The first meeting with Ty and Bond and the advisory committee will be this March 2026. No date's been locked in, but we do want to have our first meeting March of 2026. I can say I've worked with Ty and Bond in the past on a very similar project in a prior town. They are a really talented firm, and they will give us all of the details that we need in order to potentially unlock more state and federal dollars. Brownfield assessment for 3 and 41 Meadow Street. Through our partnership with the NHCOG, the town secured a DEC grant to evaluate 3 Meadow Street and 41 Meadow Street. We received a draft Phase 1 environmental site assessment for 3 Meadow Street. The report documented the property's history and identifies potential areas for environmental concern based on prior site uses. Based on these findings, our consultant, BL Companies, has recommended proceeding with a Phase 2 environmental site assessment to determine the presence and extent of any contamination. These assessments are an important step in positioning these properties for future development. No one's going to come in and develop a property unless they really know what they're getting into. On top of, once we know exactly what type of remediation that is needed, we can then go and apply for some brownfield grants, which will then help those developers, get those sites cleaned up. Going down the road of brownfield assessment, revitalization along the Mad River, as I like to say, the legacy building. The town continues, again, to partner with the NHCOG, keeping in mind our match was $220,000 of the $250,000 grant that we did get. We are in the process of interviewing. We did send out an RFP along with the COG. 8 firms actually responded to the RFP and put in a bid. We've shortlisted that, and we will begin interviews with a shorter list of companies to go out and start the whole Mad River Legacy Building assessment project to see exactly what those buildings will ultimately need in order to, be converted. And moving on, we did get an email late Friday night. The Torrington Transfer Station, I believe everybody's been brought up to speed of what RRDD1 did, and they locked in with a private hauler at the end of the summer. DAS came out Friday night at 4:58 p.m., letting the 11 towns up here know that they're going to cease operations of the Torrington Transfer Station as of June 30th, 2026. They're advising the 11 towns up here that they need to go and find new places to drop their MSW and recycling off. Fortunately, the town had a discussion many months ago. We went a different route, and we're positioned well for the next 10 years. So commend the board of selectmen that when this hit the radar, we met, we talked about it. They said, we gotta go secure ourselves for the next 10 years. And what I thought was going to happen ultimately did happen. The states decided to pull out of the garbage business, and now it's all left out into the open market. And last 2 items, the 2026 budget preparation. Obviously, the majority of our time over the past few weeks has been dedicated to preparation of the fiscal year 27 proposed budget. Our goal is to deliver the budget to the Board of Selectmen by March 13th. That's a Friday. My goal is to have it done by lunchtime if you want to swing in and grab it, or we can leave your books somewhere else in the building if you want to grab it over the weekend. Most importantly, as you're probably aware, we did go back to all of the departments that roll into the town side of the budget, and we asked them to identify an additional 3% reduction in their already reduced budgets that we've already talked about. This is not a step that we took lightly. However, we're currently managing approximately a $468,000 increase in our debt service payment, contractual obligations, and rising health insurance expenses. These pressures required us to take a disciplined and balanced approach as we work to present a responsible financial plan to all of you on March 13th. I can say that the 3% reductions were due back to us by close of business today, and I commend our department heads. They, again, counted paper clips, counted pencils, and were able to bring us back some reduction. So it's good, and it's gonna help the overall budget as we pull it all together. And last but not least, one of my favorite items, Restaurant Week kicks off Wednesday night at 6 o'clock at the Little Red Barn. The kickoff will feature appetizer samplings from several outstanding local restaurants. I encourage all of you to register online. Starts at 6 p.m. And please, come hungry. With that, I open it up to the board.
Questions from the board?
The only question I have is something you didn't bring up. What's the status on Wallens Hill?
So as mentioned, I believe at the last meeting, I have sent that off to Goldman and York for a full analysis of school impact, fiscal impact, and overall town impact. That's gonna take anywhere from 30 to 45 days. They're gonna come back with a full report that I'll share with you, and then we'll go in to executive session. I'll share the proposals with all you, but I think it's important, if you're just going to look at a proposal but not have any of the information behind it of what's the impact on the schools, what's the impact on the overall town, and what's the, total fiscal impact on the town. I think it's important to, while you look at proposals, to see those facts as
Did the
well.
clock start ticking on that, or do they have all the information that
They have all the information, the clock started ticking on it, we should be, it's about 2 weeks ago, I can get you the exact date when we engaged them, it was probably 2.5 weeks ago we engaged them, so they said it should take about 4 to 6 weeks
Okay.
to get it done. My thought was we'd have it by the end of March, back to us, so, go from there.
Has all the paperwork been signed on the 508 property?
Excellent question. There was a little bit of a back and forth with the attorneys. One of the attorneys, the developer's attorney, was away on vacation. He came back. Our attorney reached out. I believe all of the paperwork is now officially signed. Now it's just a matter of exchanging hands and the big check that's owed to us. It's a little joke there. But it was supposed to close today. I think something got tied up, but that's moving in the direction that it needed to move.
Do we have a new closing date scheduled?
It was supposed to be today, but I didn't get word that it closed today,
Okay.
so I'm assuming it's gonna close tomorrow. In fact, the developer was here today, asking a couple of questions, pulling additional permits, so it's gonna be this week. I will note, I had to put a little bit of pressure, to get that to close. I was kinda left in limbo, was really excited, as all of you, and I think a lot of our residents were. Brought the developer in, he understood the need to close, he wanted to close, he just was doing other things in the meantime. I said, take ownership of the building. Worry about the other stuff later. He goes, got it, and then that moved along very quickly. So, I'll send an email out to the board tomorrow, following up if it closed today or if it's closing, this week. But
Thank you.
that is a top priority to get that building closed. I don't wanna clear snow off of it anymore. How's that?
Does he expect to start shortly after he closes?
Yeah, per that developer's agreement, he has to demo that building within, don't quote me, I don't have it in front of me, 60 days, 100 days, 90 days, something like that. So from the day he closes, I believe he has 60 or 90 days, that building has to be down.
And I've had some casual conversations with him when he's come into our business, and, they're very excited about getting it started.
Yes,
So,
yes. He thought that the closing of the building was one of the last things he had to worry about, and then after a nice conversation that we had, he understood the importance and brought his lawyer in and said, get this closed immediately. He unleashed his attorney on our attorney in a good way, and the two worked it out, and we're moving in that direction.
Other question, Kevin?
The Mad River Legacy Building Assessment that you mentioned?
Yes.
Which buildings does that include?
It includes everything going down to almost where the Little Red Barn is, all the way up to Town Hall.
Great.
And they call them legacy buildings. I said that once before, about a year ago, in a Board of Selectmen meeting, and everybody goes, what's a legacy building? And I go, all the abandoned mills. But it just sounds better when you call them legacy buildings than abandoned mills.
Any other questions? Item 7, correspondence. Does anyone have anything? Item 8, boards and commissions. Kevin, Bill?
So we have one reappointment, Keith Wilson to the Torrington Area Board of Health, Republican Party, for a member seat with a term ending 3/2029.
Do you have a motion?
I make a motion that we reappoint Keith Wilson to the Torrington Area Health Party's Republican, member, term ending 3/20/29.
Second.
Any discussion? Unanimous? Congratulations. Item 9, unfinished business. We have no unfinished business at this time. Oh, where'd how much go? We'll move on to item 10B while we wait for Hamish to come back.
Amish is right there. That was Steve.
Never mind. Staying on item A, the 250th Celebration Committee update. Committee member Hamish Udrich. Just hit the red button, and that'll turn the microphone on.
You're
There you
good?
go.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for seeing me tonight. I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to give you a kind of an update on what the Historic Commission is doing, actually, including what we're doing for CT 250. So basically, a couple of things have developed in the last couple of weeks. I sent an email today to His Honor the Mayor and also to Mr. Hester. We now have a website that's up, which we've been waiting for a couple of years, so it's very, very good news. I sent off the link so that we might be able to hook it up with the town's website as well. Also, we've been working on a grant that we received to create historic signage for the town. And at this point, the signage is completely finished. It's actually right now with the people who are going to be constructing the physical signs themselves. And I believe that Tom Huschel is actually working on where to site the signs and talking about contacting property owners. We also have a good number of applications that are being put in for potential historic sites in the town, and these are Freedom Trail sites. Unfortunately, I can't give you a lot of detail on it because the librarian who is actually our liaison for this project has just left the job over at Beardsley. So it's going to be a couple of weeks before we're sure of who's going to be taking it up again, and I can then come in with another report if necessary. Also, as the Historic Commission's been looking around, one of the things that we're doing, of course, is we're trying to cite potential historic sites in the area, but we're also interested in taking an inventory of limited projects that might improve either the aesthetic look of the town or the historical value of the town. And so right now, we're looking at a couple of projects. One of them is to clean a fountain in the East End Park. These are rather small projects, but they're projects we think would be good for the town, but also good for the commission as well. We are thinking of trying to get a small stone monument to women who have served in the military out in East End Park as well. There's a place that is actually available for a monument. I don't know if anything's been cited there or placed there, but we were thinking of asking the Board of Selectmen at some time in the future if they'd be interested in hearing more about it. We're also going for a campaign of creating high watermark plaques that we would put on buildings along Main Street to commemorate the flood of '55. It's something that we really feel should have been done a while ago, but we're kind of catching up with that now. And we're also considering the possibility of teaming up with the Land Trust to make a couple of historical interpretive trails that are around the town. One of them that would follow kind of parallel to Route 44, which is the dam system that was built after the flood of '55. And the other one might be around where the old trolley line ran. Are you familiar with where I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. It's down on Winstead Road, goes up to Highland Lake. We were just thinking about these as possible projects, so these would be probably for the long term, obviously. We wanted to let you guys know that we're cooperating with a lot of people in the town and in the area, not only for CT 250, which I'm about to tell you about, but also just kind of getting a lot of historical events moving. We've cooperated with the American Mural Project. We're working on a couple of projects with them. The Museum of Tort Law, Barkhamsted Historical Society, the Daughters of the American Revolution, the New Hartford Historical Society, as well as Torrington, and also the Beardsley Library. And so what we've been doing is actually kind of gathering a couple of events that are going to be occurring over the spring in order to kind of celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which is in July. And so it will be on the website that we have, but I figured I'd give you a couple of the events right now. On March 7th, at the Museum of Tort Law from 11 to 1, we will have a display on Rosie the Riveter, very famous figure from World War II, and talking about women and their service in the war. On March 21st, which is a Saturday at 10:30 a.m., there's a presentation at the Beardsley Library called the Radium Girls. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but very often old watches were given radium-infused hands, and a lot of the women who worked on the watches, of course, were afflicted with radiation poisoning afterwards for this. Kind of an interesting presentation. We also have, for CT 250 in the town, we have 2 events that I'd like to just highlight. One is on April 18th. Actually 3 events, sorry about that, folks. One is on April 18th, and that will be 2 events. A service-oriented event in which we're going to be in the middle of town refurbishing Revolutionary War gravestones. And so it's something that we want to get the town involved in. There'll be more on that later on. I'll make sure that I'm back here to report to you before the 18th about that particular thing. On April 26th, at the American Mural Project, we'll be doing a presentation on women in the Revolutionary War. So I'll be talking a little bit about women in the Revolution, but there will be a number of volunteers there, some of them in period clothing, demonstrating what women actually did in the Revolution, which is essentially to run the home while people were away. It was a pretty big job. And they served in many roles, so it's kind of an interesting idea. It's going to be 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And then on May 23rd, this is still in the formative stages, but we're looking at possibly creating a kind of a secular memorial service for veterans, which would be at the First Church of Winstead. We have the Litchfield County Chorale wants to come in and do a little bit of music for it. We've invited Susan Bysovitz, who is the Secretary of the State, to come in, but I've hesitated to come before you and say this because we haven't heard back from her office yet. When we do, I will certainly let you know, and I'll make sure that you know that if there's somebody coming into town from Hartford, I'll make sure that you have that information. And then in August, September, and October, in conjunction with the American Mural Project, we have 3 programs. One is in the end of August, one's in the middle of September, one is in the middle of October. Don't have the dates for you quite yet, but I will in the next couple of weeks. The first event is a presentation and an interview on the flood of '55. We're going to try to get a few people who actually experienced the flood themselves to come in. We'll talk to them and talk about floods. This will be over at the American Mural Project in their main room. Then we're also going to be talking about a labor organization. It's kind of interesting, kind of radical around the turn of the 20th century, called the International Workers of the World, which you call the Wobblies. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or not, but they were kind of a militant labor union at that time. They were kind of looking for world revolution, and so they were here in Winstead fomenting the world revolution from here. I don't know how effective we would have been in going out and taking over China, but anyway. And then in October, we'll be doing something on the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps in Connecticut. The Civilian Conservation Corps is probably the most famous New Deal program that occurred. It had about 4 million young men go through it, who basically were given kind of a boot camp setting, and they were able to do a great deal of work outdoors in the United States, all through the country. In Connecticut, if you've ever been to Sleeping Giant State Park, that was a big CCC project. Also, People's State Forest, the CCC worked on that a lot as well. So we'll be looking at kind of area events and how they relate to these like larger trends as well. At this time, that's basically what I have to tell you. If you have any questions or comments, love to hear them from you.
Questions from the board?
I must thank the Historic Commission for all the work you guys have been doing
Thank you.
lately. I've seen some of these wayside signs that they're getting ready to do, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I walked around with them one day where they're going to strategically put them, and one's actually going to go at the Little Red Barn, maybe even right by the front door. So it's It's great work you guys
Yeah.
are doing here.
Most of the people that we've approached who talked about it seem to be very enthusiastic about it, putting them in. So we're really happy that they've kind of come together now. At this point, luckily, the job isn't really in our hands anymore, so
Right.
it's kind of good to have gotten it done. But
Yes, great job.
And I want to applaud your work, and I'm not trying to poo-poo anything, but Susan Bison, which is a lieutenant governor, I want to make sure you get her status.
Did I say Secretary of
Yes,
the
you
State? She had been Secretary.
If you wanted to call.
I was gonna say you might.
Yeah, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I just, it's funny how I worked in Hartford when she was the Secretary of the State, you can kind of tell, all right,
I
well.
think your commission's doing great work.
Oh,
I was
thank
a
you very
history
much.
major in college, so history's always been
Oh,
a big thing for me.
best subject there is,
And
isn't
I
it?
just
Yes.
love that you're digging in and
Yeah.
presenting this, and I really hope
Thank you.
everything's well attended.
Yeah, we think it's a
Thank
good
you.
town to do it
Yes.
for, so.
Absolutely.
All right.
250.
The website is active,
Yeah.
and it looks
Yep.
great on a phone, so I'm sure it looks great on a laptop as well.
That's great,
The
thank you.
Mayor had sent your email over to me, in my time between everybody goes home and everyone shows back up again,
Perfect.
so I was able to put it on the website.
All right.
Just go under our Town of Winchester Historical.
Yep.
It's being
Link is
pulled up on
towards
an
the bottom.
iPad in the back. It's a
There you go.
beautiful website. I didn't get an
It
opportunity
is,
to play
yeah.
around with it.
And luckily done with volunteer work, so that was also very good with
Yes.
it, so. I also wanted to say, just very quickly, on the town's website, which actually looks really good, I appreciate the fact that at the top of it, you guys were announcing our program, so I noticed it a week or so ago, so thank you very much. All right.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for all the work you've done. Item B, 26-09, proposed line item transfer by Director of Finance, Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one is coming through as our Winchester Fire Department, from our chief, Marchand.
Martian.
He's asking to move $3,000 from the pay per call to put it in the annual equipment testing line. He wants to do a few more equipment tests that were on budget this year. He does feel that the pay per call will have additional monies that will be unspent. And he's looking to get ahead of some annual equipment testing with this $3,000 transfer.
By recommendation of the town manager, I move the Board of Selectmen approve the above action, step 26-09, a budget transfer totaling $3,000.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor? Unanimous. Item C, potential tax sale, Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not sure if you had an opportunity to review the, not sure if you had an opportunity to review the memo that our tax collector of revenue had sent with the packet. We're suggesting that we step it up a notch on our collection. If you recall, a few meetings ago, our finance director was in here for a finance report. A number was put out there that roughly $900,000 was delinquent. That was a big number to me. I took some time and really looked at what that actually was, what it actually meant. So let me run down a few things. So first and foremost, and this report is as of 2:33 o'clock this afternoon. The actual delinquent tax right now in this town is about $1.9 million. Keeping in mind a majority, about $1 million of it, is the second payment that just became due February 1st, okay? A lot of that will come in over the next couple of weeks. So now we got roughly a $900,000 number. Of that $900,000 number, $800,000 roughly is the town of Winchester. And this was property that was foreclosed on several years ago. And when the town took ownership of it, there was no payment of the back taxes, the water, and the sewer. We are working with our auditors and our finance director to try and clean those balances up. Obviously, we own the property. The issue we have is that if we write a check out of our general fund. It then returns right back into the general fund. But when you look at a revenue and an expense of a budget, it's going to show that we collected delinquent taxes of $1 million, but you don't have that $1 million to spend. So we're trying to figure out a way to finally clean this up, because you just can't have $900,000 sitting on the books that you really aren't going to collect. So we want to clean that up. But that's not what we're here to discuss tonight. So then we started to say, okay, in order to do a tax sale, you need to create buckets. And I have worked with Adam Cohen in the past. He's a wonderful attorney. And I'll note that this was something years ago that I felt wasn't good for a town to do. And I resisted it. And then I had a, well, what else are we gonna do moment, and decided to move forward with it and really saw the process played out. In fact, I went to Hartford and I looked at their tax sale. I went to another town, I think it was Simsbury, looked at how their tax sale, and then ultimately engaged in a tax sale in a prior town. There are buckets that are created, and you can't just pull a property and say, well, I want them to go to tax sale. It has to meet the criteria. So the criteria that the tax collector and I came up with is that you have to be delinquent for 2 years. So 2-year delinquent and owe at least $7,000. We felt that that was a fair place to start, that you're 2 years delinquent and that you owe a minimum of $7,000. Now keep in mind, this is just real estate. There's no mechanism for vehicles or personal property. I wish there was, but there isn't. And that bucket yielded us $131,220.21, which is a good number. And you know, these particular properties are 2 years and they owe at least $7,000. If we engage Adam Cohen at a certain period at a time, those properties then become his properties to go and collect on. He then engages a sale on those particular properties. It's a very well advertised sale. It goes on cttaxsale.com. It obviously goes on our website. It goes in the newspaper. It allows everybody to know that these particular properties are going to be sold. I can say back in my prior town that we had listed 25 properties with Adam Cohen. When it actually came down to the day where everybody comes into the town hall and bids on it, only 6 of those properties had not paid their taxes. 6 of the properties actually sold that day. All but 5 were redeemed within the 6 months and 1 day. So let's play a scenario out that we go through. Can I see your list again? Because I became unorganized very quick tonight. So I'm gonna pick on a West Road property. West Road property roughly owes 147. Oh, excuse me. That's actually not accurate. So a West Road property owes, let's say, $7,000, right? It goes to tax sale and it sells for $10,000 that night. The new owner of that property has to wait 6 months and 1 day. The current owner of that property has 6 months and 1 day, plus interest, because it's a 2% interest every single month that they would pay the new owner. If they don't redeem the property from the new owner 6 months and 1 day, they would lose that property and the winning bidder would now take ownership of that property. Any additional proceeds, the town can only make what the taxes are owed. So again, this property that has delinquent taxes of $7,000, it sells for 10. The current owner could petition the court for the additional proceeds of the $3,000. The town does not get to profiteer from the sale. Potentially, the old owner, if they didn't redeem the property, could go to the court and ask them for the additional proceeds. I'm here tonight for a few reasons. One, is this something that the Board of Selectmen has an appetite to go and do, to give us another tool on our belt to step up our collections and see if we can sell these properties? And two, that bucket that we created, Originally, we started the bucket at $10,000. It brought the list down to about 30 grand. There seems to be that sweet spot between $7,000 and $10,000, and that's why we brought it. We even went to 75, and we ultimately settled on 7,000, which ultimately netted us $131,220.21, which we would push off to Adam Cohen. That number has actually decreased, not fully yet, but we believe it's going to decrease by $12,000 this week. Somehow this ended up on the agenda. The current property owner heard that this is a potential and ended up saying, I'll be in this week with a $12,000 check. Amazing. It does work. I've seen it firsthand. So before you tonight is an open for discussion. Does the board want to entertain the idea of going to a tax sale? There are many towns in Connecticut that once they start a tax sale, every 2 years they're doing a tax sale with the bucket. You can always create a new bucket if you want to redefine the bucket, but every 2 years, towns are going out and saying, okay, you're in that bucket, it's gone, see ya. And the towns that are doing it every 2 years have seen a significant increase in their ability to collect taxes. Because everybody in town knows, once I get to 2 years and I owe $7 grand, they're gonna sell my property.
Now, would any abatement programs for like elderly or disabled apply in this situation where they wouldn't have to go to the sale to get it excused?
So one of the items, if you file bankruptcy, there's a stay on those. Elderly programs, if they qualify, then it would reduce their taxes. But again, those are things that they will work out with the Attorney Cohen to see, to make sure that all of the avenues have been looked at before Adam goes in and tries to sell the property.
So they would still apply, they'd still have a
They would still
chance to
apply. They still
go
have a
through that in case they hadn't known about it or tried to do
Correct.
it before.
So how it would work is if the board agreed, and we wouldn't be looking at a potential tax sale, believe it or not, and how busy Attorney Cohen is, wouldn't be until probably fall. That's how booked up he is. You can just go on his website, CT Tax Sale, and see how many sales are going on throughout the 169 towns in Connecticut. We'd be looking at the fall at the latest. The first thing is our marshal, who works very well with the town. This is not a knock at the marshal, just comes a time where the marshal isn't able to collect it. The marshal will engage every one of these properties, say, listen, the board has taken action that eventually your property, I'm not even going to be able to collect on it. It is now with the attorney. And you're gonna have to only deal with Attorney Cohen. So that helps pick up the collection because nobody obviously wants their property sold. Then Adam gives them a date to say, on or before the sale date, you have to pay the payment in full. Then if it goes to the sale date and the property does sell, that current homeowner still has that 6 months and 1 day for full redemption. And that's it, and then the property is redemption.
Adam's very qualified, I did look into that. What is his fee structure for this?
All the fees are put on the actual sale of the home. There is absolutely 0 fees that are incurred by the town.
It's not reducing what we collect.
It's not reducing what we're collecting. If a bill is, and remember, the numbers that you look today change every month. Because at the first of the month, another 2% interest gets added on. But eventually, Adam says, that's the price, that's where it goes, once he takes, full ownership of the, and he never takes full ownership, but once he has the power to then take these, any additional legal fees is all tacked on to the sale of it.
So purchaser.
It's the purchaser that has to pay, Attorney Cohen's fees.
And what's the notice provisions to like neighbors, the property, the general public about when these sales are gonna occur, and what factors are gonna be involved in it?
So I did look in it. The one thing, it needs to go in the paper, is one thing. Attorney Cohen does list it on his website. I did look at the past. The town did try and engage this before, and I think it wasn't done in the most transparent way. I truly believe we're going to list it, on our website, potentially mail the neighbors. What does it take to put a letter in the mail? Hey, just so you know that this property is potentially going to be sold at a.
Potentially, or are we gonna notify the neighbors?
No, potentially this property is going to be sold at an
Right.
auction. Not potentially, we're gonna notify, potentially that this property is going to, because
We will
remember, it's
notify the
potential, because if they redeem the morning of,
Yeah.
then it's, yeah, so that's, I didn't, when I said potential, it's potential that it was gonna be sold, not that potentially we're gonna email. The board can direct me in any direction it wants. Paul, I want, the same way when we sell a town-owned property, that you have to notify all the abutters, no problem. There's no ordinance, there's no statute, there's no anything that says what we have to do, but I'm open to any idea that you all wanna do to make sure that this has enough exposure and that, it's not done in any way, shape, or form. The other item that the tax collector of revenue brought up was she wants to prohibit any town hall, any town employees from bidding on it. I said, I'd bring that up.
Great.
You know, she felt we have some knowledge, we have firsthand knowledge of things, even though everything's open and available. That could be another caveat that you put in to, into the bucket, that town hall employees are forbidden from being able to bid on any property in the auction. They can attend the auction, it has to be an open event, but you have that at your pleasure as well.
So you're basically saying we can customize and set the rules for tax sales, is what you're saying?
Within
Because-
limits.
Within limits,
Within
yes.
limits. Because I'll look at everybody right now and tell you, I'm not gonna be the guy that takes a 96-year-old widow who's 2 years behind for $7,000 and sell her home and throw her out of the home. So can special exceptions be brought to the board?
That can't, if you wanted
It
to
can't
age
happen.
restrict it, it
So
can't
right
happen.
now, if we put 2-year limit, $7,000, and 2 years ago, a 96-year-old widow stopped paying her taxes, you're saying next year, we're gonna throw her out of her home and sell her house?
I'm not saying that, I'm saying that there are many avenues that particular 96-year-old widow could potentially take to save her home.
That's why I brought up whether there's exceptions.
Yeah,
Reapply.
there are things that, you know, individuals can do. There's reverse mortgage, I don't wanna get into anyone's personal finances, on that. But I can tell you, Selectman Pozo, that is the exact feeling that I had before. And then I engaged in the sale, and I saw 25 properties get turned over to, Attorney Cohen. Only 6 went to auction, and only 1 wasn't redeemed.
And I understand
So
what you're
everybody has a
saying.
way.
And you're a town manager, I'm a volunteer, and I'm looking at it as a homeowner, we have an age thing. If we're not flexible on this, and won't we put this in ink? What's the procedure right now if somebody hasn't paid their taxes for 4 years and goes up to $10,000?
We just keep trying to collect.
What if that
So how did we end up,
Then it goes on the suspense list.
so how did we end up with all these properties we own now?
So for many years, the town foreclosed on properties, right? And there was a balance on those properties. When we took ownership of those properties, nobody wiped the balances. We're looking at a way, there is an opportunity to wipe the balance when you take ownership of that. If it doesn't happen, when you're changing the title, the balance just hangs out there. No, everybody missed it. Everybody missed it. And fortunately or unfortunately, the crew that's here now, great crew, none of them were here. We just have to fix the problem.
So Paul, if I hear what you're saying, it sounds like, as opposed to foreclosing on the properties where suddenly we own them like all the other ones we do, where we don't collect any revenue, here we have an opportunity to collect the revenue, because people tend to pay the bill once you do this, and keep it in private hands so that we don't take it over.
Correct.
So that's the benefit of doing this over what was done here years ago, which is foreclose on. So I have just 2 quick questions for you. One is, why 7,000? Why not 5,000? Where did the 7,000 come from?
We looked at potentially second payments. We have a very interesting town in that you have some homes that may have a $3,000 total tax bill, and then we have other homes that have $30,000 tax bills. We literally looked at all kinds of projections. We started at 10 and noticed that the list didn't really get very large. And then we said, okay, we gotta find the number where it makes sense to go out and engage Attorney Cohen. and
Why not
7,000.
5?
We didn't run it at 5. We could look at it at 5, 2 years and 5. We can, I can provide a list. We didn't look at
I mean,
5, we stopped at 7.
You know, I can see, I don't know, I don't know how you got to the 7, it was just kind of an arbitrary number.
Arbitrary number,
Yeah.
yep.
I mean, it'd be interesting to look at the 5, and so it has 2 years or a dollar amount.
So, it's
So
both.
somebody with a $10,000 tax bill that's over the 7,000 happens to miss it, they're not suddenly on the list.
Yeah, so we wanted to do
So it's gotta be 2
and,
years.
it's not or.
Right.
Because here's the biggest example of it, right? If you're $7,000, I have the full delinquent list. There are a ton of properties up at the lake. By oversight, for whatever reason, there are a bunch of residents up at the lake that still owe that second payment. Boy, that would be a little bit of a shell shock that, wait, this thing just was owed on February 1st and you've already sent me to the attorney?
Right.
We're saying it's gotta be delinquent for 2 years.
Right.
And
And that makes sense.
$7,000. Because, oversight, a little financial crisis that you're probably gonna climb out of. Okay, you can make that $7,000 payment, that second half payment on your home. Why we wanted to do and not or is we were gonna pick up a whole lot of second payments that are just 30 days late.
No, I think that makes great sense, it should be and. And the second question was, you said you were resistant to these, you didn't like the idea originally. What were your concerns before that you didn't like, and tell us how you got to change?
Selectman Pozo said it best. He did. I did not want to put the 96-year-old widow out on the streets. And a lot of residents had supported this type of a tax sale. At the time, I had a Board of Finance. All of the Board of Finance members were supporting a tax sale. And they looked at me and they said, Paul, every one of our residents use the streets. Every one of our residents use the service. How come that particular individual doesn't have to pay for the services? I said, "You're
Because when
right."
it's the 96-year-old widow whose husband was a veteran, and I'm gonna be the guy that's gonna throw her out in the street, I'd rather foreclose on the house, try to work something out with her, but I'm not.
But if you foreclose on the house, then she's out on the street too.
That's where the lawyer will
But-
come in.
but-
The
we don't
lawyer
have-
will
we don't
work
have
with the
tenants.
person.
Well, and I get that, but that puts us in a situation where we can try to work something else out, we can make an exception. Once we put this in and it's in writing, there's no exceptions for any reason.
I guess what I'd like
You're
to
out.
see, Paul, maybe is an idea of what exceptions we can make that doesn't throw the entire program out, right? I mean, are there,
It's a bucket. Unfortunately, you can't say,
But, so-
it's a price and timeline
So in-
are the only two reasons for buckets.
but it was asked, how do we handle elderly or disabled?
So
Is there an exception that's already carved into the law for that? Because that was your question.
you have the elderly tax credits. It's income-based, obviously, and I can tell you that our tax collector's office does a phenomenal job. If there's a lever that they can pull to help out these individuals, they're pulling it to help out those individuals. They're working hand in hand with the assessor's office to try and give them any benefit that they can. Unfortunately, I think it gets to a point where they may have too much income coming in, and they don't qualify for this particular program. But you could put a caveat that after we ensure that any benefit that they're entitled to has been applied to, their payment, and if they're still in the bucket, that does work, because you gotta be careful, because you just can't say, well, I wanna exclude anyone that's 96 years of age. You can't do that.
So what if they make a partial payment? So they've been delinquent for 2 years.
Yep.
They owe 10,000. Through whatever programs, they come in with 6,000. Does that stay the
That
sale?
stays. So when we turn this list over to Attorney Cohen, if they get to a $6,999 balance, they don't go.
I know the reason for the $7,000 number.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at this list, you're looking at some places that haven't paid taxes since 2010. It gets a little, and there could be circumstances. I mean, one of the things we could do is when we send the notice out about this, we can include within it, information about programs that might be available to the elderly, the disabled. This is who you contact, reach out to the tax collector to see whether you qualify. And that way we're informing them that they may have an out to it. So that would be a way of trying to protect those people. Because, yeah, you know, we don't want to do that. But at the same time, is it reasonable for someone not to have paid taxes, you know?
16 years.
It's, you know, and not have reached out and seen what programs are available or whatever. And we don't know what the situation is with these people. And it could just be like all sorts of things. Could be someone with
And I agree,
dementia or some issues, you know?
99.9% of the time,
Yeah.
it's just gonna be because I'm just not paying them.
Yeah,
But that 0.1% of the time,
right. And that's, so we provide
again,
the
if we can put a
information.
caveat in there that said, we've exhausted all resources trying to help the elderly, trying to help the disabled veteran, and we've done our due diligence to try to help them out, that's fine. But I'm not gonna be that guy that 1%, 0.1%.
The
I'm
veteran's
signing something
exemption,
that's
we
gonna
have
throw
to
them
do
out
by
of it.
law, so that's already been, anyone that has that veteran exemption that passed last year, that's already been applied to bills.
And that applies to widows and widowers.
That is
of
correct as
veterans,
well,
too. So
yes.
those people are
So
not.
those
being
people are
exempted.
not gonna be in the bucket. You know, when I look at lists, I can't look at faces, I look at Excel sheets, and it's just addresses and numbers. I get it, I do.
And I get it from your perspective and finances perspective, right? This is a business, we have bills to pay. I'm here for a different reason. I'm not here to run a business. I'm not here for the finance. Yes, we're in charge of finance, but I'm here for the people of town. If there's that one person living out on, you know, almost on the Norfolk line that's in their 90s, I'm fine if they're driving by me in a brand new Mercedes and they haven't paid there and they like, I can't come up with the $10,000. But there's people in the outskirts that sometimes at that age get into a situation where I got nothing left. I've eaten the last of the cat food, you know, which I shared with the dog. I don't have it.
That's probably a pretty small percentage. of
It is.
And
but
on
if
the other side of the coin.
But
when
we're signing a paper right now that when we're all out of this chair, if you're telling me this is black and white and that's it, then it's still on my conscience that in 15 years, that one exception. So we gotta put a clause in there, we gotta cover, this is an important one to me, this is an important one, that we gotta put a clause there that all resources are offered to that exception. Well, to everybody really,
And
but.
we're looking at 10 properties, so 10 property owners.
It's that, and
This time.
No, this time,
But the
yeah.
tax sale we're putting in.
I agree with you, that's why I raised the issue myself. But, you know, we're looking at, and their efforts should be made, and I agree with you 100% to alert them as to what their resources are before it reaches the point where they're having their property sold out from underneath them.
But on the other side of the equation, we're asking the town department's head to come in with a 3% reduction. We know how this budget season's going to be this year. And for the 97% of the residents that pay their taxes and follow the rules and support everything we're doing in town, there's fairness on both sides there too. So I'm with you, Bill. We're gonna carve out whatever we can do to make sure those people know what resources are available if we do this. But,
I got paper cut that's
We
really
gotta
bleeding.
move.
oh,
We need a medical timeout, Todd.
Be right back.
Meeting temporarily recess.
okay.
Turn your mics off. Recess has been resumed.
So let's say that I didn't pay my taxes for 2 years. In that 2 years, like what has happened? What has the town done to reach out? Like what's the process?
Excellent question. So we do employ a marshal here in town. That marshal has probably at least tried to make contact with you at least 10 to 20 times over the course of those 2 years that you've been delinquent.
Letters
He's
in
sent
person?
letters, he's knocked on your door. Art Quinn does a really, really great job. This is now, Art has exhausted, and these people have gone just absolutely dark and have chosen not to get on any type of a payment plan or anything. They've just decided that they weren't paying. So Art has several contacted. On top of that, Ashley first sends letters out, she sends out the lien letters, because we put a lien on it once the property hasn't been paid. Once something becomes 30-day delinquent, there's a letter that the town then pushes out that there is now a lien on your property. Then after that, Art then starts trying collection methods on it as well. It's creating these are never going to go away. And it's putting an end to the bill that's going to keep growing.
Yes.
Because every month, it's an 18% guaranteed interest rate on all these properties.
Oh, yeah.
Something from
Crazy.
2010. It's only creating, so if the house ever, sells, there's no proceeds for the family, because we're entitled to all of it. And at that time, the town doesn't get to say, oh, you were 96, you were a great human being. There's no way to forgive the taxes. Once that bill is produced, there's no way to forgive the taxes. The town is entitled.
I was shooting through the list, and there's some people that owe more in delinquent than they did
Yes.
Yeah.
originally.
That's the
And
better way of saying
I've seen
what I
it
just said.
happen in my job where people don't pay, and what happens, it gets pushed on to the next person. They're like, why do I have to pay that? Well, because that's just, that your lawyer didn't do it at the closing. Is there a way that this person could actually agree to let the town put a lien on their property, so when it does
It
sell?
already is.
So
You
it
don't
already
even
is?
have to agree
Okay.
to it. We do it after your 30 days.
I got it.
So,
Well, what is the difference between this list and this list?
one list is going to be the excluded properties from the town, and so the town's the big list, $800,000.
Yeah, don't look at that.
Yeah, we're gonna clean
These
that
are all
up.
the town properties? No.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see,
Why do they have names attached to them then?
well,
So they
that
got
was
it
the
from-
original, and
Yeah.
then now it's town of Winchester, so.
So these, we've all taken possession of
We've
these.
taken
Those are
possession of
foreclosed
those.
properties that were town.
Over the
now.
years. And by whatever reason, listen, a lot of things go on. Nobody thinks, well, I gotta clear the balance off. It's a busy town hall. We're looking to clear that off, so we don't owe ourselves
So these are all properties, as Selectman Lemire likes to talk about, we could put on the market to sell all of these properties.
You would have to foreclose on the properties first.
Can you just say we did?
I thought they were.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You were.
This big, long list.
Yes,
Yes.
that big
Here's
long
your
list.
shopping list, Troy.
Yes. So there's that list. Now, the reason why I do not want those properties going in the tax sale is because somebody could purchase that for just the taxes.
Oh.
So we already
That
own
property
that.
might be worth more.
We already own these.
Right.
So we can list them and sell them as we do other town properties.
You could
Correct.
potentially,
But we
yes.
have to clear up the tax.
We have to clear, it's a lot of
We
process.
have to do the accounting
We
problem.
gotta do the
Yes.
accounting, because that just hangs out there, and then the new owner we would still try and collect the taxes, so I
Right.
need to. We went down this road, and then I saw this big avenue, it was like, oh boy, we got a bit more problems we gotta
So
deal
do
with.
you need a motion to get this going, or
I think eventually, yes, if you're comfortable, but I also want it, I did draft a motion, not knowing where the board would go. But I also know that I put myself in a box as a town, the authorization shall remain in effect until 12/31/2026. We come back and revisit this after the sale. I'm not saying that you guys should be signing up today to say,
Perpetuity.
2 years, $7,000, and you've given me this blanket, like, I can do this every 2 years.
Should we look at the $5,000 run to see what it does? Because you said there's only 10 properties that would be in the $7,000 run, right?
There's 10, yeah,
10.
that list, yeah,
Can we run the 5 before we move forward on this?
I don't
And
know if we want to be,
that aggressive.
yeah, because that is kind of aggressive.
it's what the average tax bill is
Yeah,
around
if,
town?
if a
You're
tenant,
talking about 2 years old, though. 2
Yeah,
years old.
2 years old
It's
and
been ignored.
5,000. I think what I'd like to do, I agree, we need to the criteria, so I don't think we're in a position to vote on something right now, because I think we need to think, what do we wanna put in this proposal? And what, restrictions, what can we put in? So I think that's where we need to have like a working group maybe to try to put together some language as to how we wanna have that. You've done this before, you've probably seen what the language is, and you be good to help, like what can we do to try to ease some of the concerns and make sure that we're going through the process appropriately, legally, you know.
Perhaps have
thoroughly.
Attorney Cohen come in and talk to the board before we would do something like that as well.
$700 an hour.
Probably not.
I was gonna say, that's,
Sometimes it takes money to make money.
here's, so, and I respect Attorney Cohen a lot, he is tremendous at what he does. He'll be one of those, well, use my services or not, I'm not coming in to sell to you. My
your time for
track
that.
record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Right,
Um,
right.
So, now, I can tell you that the tax collector in Norwalk has used Adam Cohen so many times in the past, she now does it on her own. Aggressive.
Do we have samples? I mean, you said you did it with your prior town.
Yes.
Do you have samples of what the motion or the rule was that
So,
was done? That-
I
So we
pulled a-
can follow that as a
Right, I was gonna
template?
ask, and was 7,000 what you did last time?
I did 10,000. Now, you, and I urge you, and maybe we don't do anything tonight, we kick it back for 2 more weeks, but you go on CT tax sale, and look at all the properties, or all of the auction that, Attorney Cohen has listed, and see, exactly, you know, what properties are going out there.
But that doesn't give us the language to have in our,
Yeah, so really general, not general, but I have the Board of Selectmen Town of Winchester pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 12-157 authorizes the tax collector to initiate the statutory tax sale process for any real property that meets the following criteria. The property is delinquent in payment for real estate taxes for a period of 2 years or more, and the total amount in delinquent taxes, interest, liens, fees, and other authorized charges owed to the town equals or exceeds $7,000.
but do we want to put language in there that there be information provided to the property owner regarding potential resources
Yep.
to abate the taxes? I think there should be, like a notice of rights
Yep.
type thing.
Yeah. Board's pleasure. Let me talk with the tax collector. Let me do 2 things. Let me get a it's gonna be hard to write, but let me get a $5,000 list, but that
Would you
seems
like me
like
to
it
write it
might
for
be
you?
too aggressive. No, because I won't be able to. Do we wanna look at a $5,000 list?
Let's go 1,500.
No, let's look at a let's look at a $5,000 list. I'm just,
$1,500, you're out of here.
let's look at the 5,000 just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's an option.
Okay.
Maybe
Again-
5, 7, and 10, so we can see the difference.
Oh, fine. Well, you got the 7,
Right.
okay?
Well, you already did
You'll
above the
see
7, you
10 in
didn't see
here.
much.
You can see which ones are
Right.
10,
Right.
so that's gonna be less than, not a lot less, about like 3 properties that are under 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me pull the $5,000 list. Let me then come up with language and see, based on buckets of, you know, making sure that we've exhausted every effort to make sure that, you know, anyone that is potentially able to qualify for a program has been given the right to qualify for that program. Programs. And what else you all wanna look
So
at?
I have
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
one quick question. So tax collector turns it over to the marshal. The marshal's gonna tack his fee onto taxes that he collects. I assume that's gonna come off when it would come back.
That is correct. So one thing that the general statute does not allow, attorney's fees can roll in, marshal fees do not.
So we pay the marshal.
We
So that
wouldn't pay
would
the
come
marshal
off.
fee.
Who pays?
The marshal would just unfortunately end up having to eat it, so.
Well, technically, if he doesn't, he only collects.
He only collects it if it's paid. So he's, again, similar to, you know, Attorney Cohen, where if a property does not sell, there are no fees charged by Attorney Cohen.
So
the
part
town.
2 of my question, if the resident buys it before the tax sale,
They would just pay the taxes.
so they wouldn't pay the fees to Cone.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And my question was to just make sure there is no Connecticut statute limiting us to what we can do. Because I know on sewer side, there's a threshold that you can't even lien somebody when you hit a certain amount of money.
That's a new statute, right?
That is correct, a
That
new
is a new
statute.
statute that came up.
Yes, it is.
There is no statute that says that you couldn't go to $1,500. That is very aggressive, I believe.
And just remember, the homeowner has 6 more months after the sale date to get their property back.
6
without-
months in a day.
1 day.
In a day.
Yep.
So you give them everything that you could possibly give them, so.
And again, if they drop the balance to $6,999 prior to this going to Adam, it doesn't go. Or if they drop it after it goes to Adam, it doesn't go.
Right, so if they owed 7,500, they could come in with a check for $600 and get off the list.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, the problem is, in 30
Well,
days.
you want, they got 700 in interest.
But then, that's not solving the problem.
Right.
Like, again, I think one of the board members pointed out that the interest and liens alone were more than the principal payment, because they've just ignored it and ignored it, and every 30 days, we're adding
18%.
additional fees, 2%.
Yeah, they haven't cared about the lien, because if they're not gonna sell it, who cares? And they've just ignored it, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I have my homework. Any other questions?
Very good.
Good debate.
Yep.
Moving on to item D, Charter Revision Commission Membership Edition.
So on February 25th, the commission had its first meeting. Select person Hefferman LeGlint. I'm gonna get that right one of these days, Cheryl.
Same with Lynn's fine. Make it easy.
Can I do that?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You need to put your name
Select
tag.
person, and I couldn't read it tonight, I don't have my cue card. So,
It's usually out.
Select person McGlynn and I facilitated over the first meeting. The members elected a chairperson, which is former Selectwoman Candy Perez. And Candy came with her homework done and gave assignments to everybody to get the ball rolling here. So I think it was a very productive first meeting. At one of our upcoming meetings, we'd like to invite Mr. Harrington to the meeting so that he can explain in a little more detail the change regarding referendum timing and that sort of thing, because everybody had some questions on the technicalities of that. Also, in the days shortly after our last meeting, I had a chance to have several conversations with people, and what I really kind of took away from these conversations was, if we're going to be successful and move these changes through the process and get the town to get behind it and support it, then we needed to have support from both sides of the political spectrum here in town. So with that, I would like to go ahead and nominate Bill Hudak to join the Charter Revision Commission effective immediately.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion.
I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Anything else? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? 511. Congratulations, Mr. Hudak.
I will get a letter off to Mr. Hudak tomorrow morning, and then get him sworn in at the clerk's office. And then, Mr. Marino, do you want to point out when your first public, because we're on camera, your first public hearing is for charter?
Did you bring your notes? Because I
That's
did
on-
not.
That's on the 16th, I believe. Let
I
me just
have it.
quickly check that.
My calendar.
No,
March.
sorry, the first public meeting is on the 12th, Thursday, March 12th. It starts at 7 o'clock.
That's right, we went back and forth on those
Round and
dates quite a bit.
round.
Yes, it is indeed the 12th.
So I'll point out to the general public that that is your opportunity to come in and speak your mind about the charter, things that you may want to have the Charter Revision Commission look at. This is their first informational meeting that they are looking for the public's input, where if you feel that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but you find something in the charter that you're really perplexed about or wish it would change, that's the opportunity to come in to this, to that board and, or that commission and state that you would like them to look at that and the reasons why you'd like them to look at that. So next Thursday, 7 PM in this room.
Moving on to item 11, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Does anyone wish to speak? Item 12, executive session, discussions, strategy, and negotiations regarding emergency services pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1 to 206.
Make a motion to move into executive session and invite Paul Harrington for discussion, strategy, and negotiations for emergency services pursuant to Connecticut statute, section 1 through 200, paren 6.
Second.
Motion second, discussion, all in favor? Unanimous, and it is 8:10 PM.
Oh,
Exactly.
That's not my sheet.
We are back from executive session at 8:43. Nope, let me try that again. We are back from executive session at
8:38.
8:38. My watch was frozen. We have no action to take. Item 13, Selectmen's comments and reports. Does anyone have anything? This is unusual.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion?
Good night. Don't forget, Restaurant Week begins on Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Yeah, but I think the